for mayor's comments?
No,
No, not today.
do you want to do the executive session so they don't have to sit here?
Sure.
So they'll do.
Sure.
He's just gonna go do a quick thing and then ask.
No, I
Doesn't
can't
have
believe.
questions.
Yeah, getting 8.5. I was never out of it. I was never out of it.
Have you started?
That's the only way you get it.
Watching a game like this is the only way you can get it.
Still can't believe it.
San Francisco.
Staggering.
It was almost 11 miles. Weird feeling. The city was going to come down and soar and whip.
Then they went.
You've seen that show before.
You've seen that show.
We've seen the
That cost me $300. Because if San Francisco and held them and won 22-19.
My cousin's daughter's cheerleading squares.
Because whoever went to top,
They would have had to get one regulation.
And have everybody sleep.
That's why I have 50 pairs.
Okay, we'll get started. We'll call this Jamestown City Council work session to order for Monday, February 12th. For the clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sheldon. Here. Brackman. Here. Paternity.
Here.
Reynolds. Faulkner.
Here.
Bonfiglio.
Here.
DeVersa.
here.
Russell.
Here.
And President Olson.
Here. Thank you. At this time, we'll give the opportunity for people to speak to the council. Is there anybody here who would like to address the council? Please leave your name, address, and limit your remarks to 5 minutes.
It's my show.
It's your show.
Andrew only told me I had 2 minutes. Melissa Paternity, 346 Faulkner Street. I just wanted to be nice tonight. The other day, I listened to Community Matters on WRFA with the mayor, and I thought what a great interview that was. And it was nice to listen to, you know, a lot of the positive things that are happening in the city. And one of the comments the mayor said is it's nice to hear the good things, right? And so I read an article today that Julia wrote and about the pro-housing communities pledge. And I was reading it and I took some notes and I was not gonna critique it right away, right? But I do think that it's a great step in the right direction. I think that making sure that the landlords are accountable is the #1 priority of the mayor and the council and the city. And I'm glad to see something finally coming forward with a conversation with the public, hopefully. Affordable housing, there's a lot of affordable housing in the city of Jamestown, but then there's not. Right, we always talk about 54% of the housing in Jamestown is renters, right? Renters are so important. And there's so many things that I think have happened in the last 4 years in the city that we have started to move in that positive forward movement, and it's nice to see. So I just wanted to say thank you, Julia, thank you, Kim, for a great interview, keeping the public updated on what's happening in the city, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. You still got 3 minutes and 12.
Well, I could. Actually, I did have one more question. Get a little nervous up here talking, but last voting session I brought up the fact about the $175,784 that was going to the small business grant. Is it the department? over there at the GCC
Small Business Development Center.
for the JTNYE lab. And I was just had a couple questions, like, that program started out with like 5 or 6 people. How many people ended up making it totally through that whole program, do you know?
I believe it was, I think, 4 that finished.
Okay, so everybody that, okay. And then, and, cause my concern was that that's a lot of money. And I know that Dave Warren at his place down on Washington Street is also trying to do an expansion of 8 bays at his place to help with the BOCES program. And I kinda was curious on to maybe why some of that money wasn't going to that also.
Because this money is specifically allocated already for entrepreneurial support. And it's not 174,000, it's roughly 145,000,
Okay.
just to make that small correction. But
Okay,
this program was identified through the Consolidated Action Plan, the 5-year plan.
okay,
And so we're going into what would be our 3rd year. And so the money that is remaining is what we are proposing to allocate directly to SBDC. The program, the Fast Track program that you started with, that is, SBDC actually happens to be an affiliate of the Fast Track program, Coffin Foundation, so they have rights to use that program, so it is a natural, just kind of evolution of the program. They're also a bit more equipped than what we felt like we were.
so there are people that were doing that aren't going to be doing it?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, that was my,
So we feel like it will be a better,
okay,
a better program, and they will have better resources in
Okay.
addition to what we're allocating to be able to do a better job of it. It's what they do. They're
awesome.
the experts, and
Yeah, that was my
that was
concern,
a
is
good-
that it didn't seem like it was, you know, JCC could possibly, hopefully do a different, in a different way.
Mhm,
That was
yeah.
my, so they'll get that money, and that money will be used to run that program, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
alright, cool, thank you, appreciate it.
See anybody else? Anybody else here from the public? If not, we'll move on. We have a presentation from Dave Leathers from the BPU. He has some people here. He wants to give just a brief overview on a couple things, and then he'll be,
Yeah, I'd say it's not really a presentation, but
it's just an overview.
try to
Question?
stop by on a periodic basis just to check in with council, and I knew we had some new council members. So just a few items, and then if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to respond to those. But on the water side, a few different things. One, we just launched a bid process last week, I believe, for our WIA grant. It's a water main replacement grant that we got. It's a $5 million project. We got $3 million of the grant money, and phase 1 of that was Washington Street. And so now phase 2 is bidding out 5 different streets in the city that were part of that original list. I think it's West Virginia Boulevard, Glenview, Mercury Lane in LaSalle, West End, Langford, and West 18th Street. The intent with those 5 streets is to get the bid results back and see how much money we have left out of the $5 million to award. So we expect bid results in early March and hopefully an award by the March board meeting. Also on the water side, we've got the Check Your Pipes initiative. So through the federal EPA, we are required to get water service line material inventory for every water service line that we serve. So that's, I think, over 16,000 service lines. So there's been quite a bit of communication out on that. That communication will continue. All water systems are required to complete the inventory by October of this year. So a lot of effort being put into that. Water, we've had a few main breaks in 2024 so far, so we continue to chase those a little bit year to date. But 2023, I don't want to say it was a historic low, but we had a low amount of water main breaks, so that was really good. So as we continue to replace what we've identified as old needing replaced lines, then we're hopeful that, that shows up in the results related to main breaks and disruptions for our customers there. Power plant's been generating electricity quite a bit December and January. I think we're going to do some runs this week as well, so a lot of effort goes on in the plant to keep that facility up and operational. We did our semi-annual every 6 months. We run the plant full out for the New York ISO capacity payment, so they did that a few weeks ago, and that went very well. So we continue to work on that. The board did approve in the fourth quarter last year our 2024 budgets for all 5 of our divisions. If there's any questions you want on any of those divisions, wastewater was the one out of the 5 that had a rate increase. Wastewater had a 4% rate increase. The other 4, there was no rate adjustment. I think in each of them there was maybe some changes. Water maybe had water service connections, new service connections. Those charges went up a bit. Solid waste had some charges that were indexed. District heat, we did the fuel charge adjustment, was a minor increase, but really wastewater out of the 5 was the only one that had a rate increase. We're working through some new board member orientation sessions in the next couple of months. So obviously the mayor is new to the board. Council President Dulce also on the board now, and then Marie Karuba and Ralph Wallace have joined the board. So we'll be going through some orientation sessions that we normally do, and that invite is out there for any council member as well. If anybody wants overviews, we have 4 or 5 different sessions that we put together that is everything to do with the utility, the relationship with the city, the organization from an HR standpoint, and then each of the divisions as well. We try more in the summertime to get facility tours, so if there's any interest in that, we'll make sure that we include you as part of that, that if you want to participate, you're always welcome. Got a couple of engineering studies that should be wrapping up in the coming months. We had a NYSERDA grant looking at the district heat system, so that study should be completing soon. And we also had a NYSERDA grant for the Jamestown Public Schools bus garage and bus fleet. That is, the school systems are required to go all electric. That was a study that should be wrapping up soon, looking at not only their facility, but that transition and how they approach that. So we'll make sure to share those results when they come out. Any questions?
When's district heat shutting down?
I have no idea when that would happen.
Is it, you still having problems with, you having a lot of breakage or district? Because it's gonna, I guess, I was told that it's gonna go up a lot.
Yeah, I think that
A lot.
that's part of the engineering study and getting on the other side of that and getting into communication and next steps. So we need to work through that process.
I know you were awarded a large grant for the micro grid system. Maybe Chris or yourself could comment in layman's terms what that's going to do for the city.
Yeah, we're super excited about that. It's just we're into a 3 or 4 month process of negotiating with the Department of Energy. So really that whole project has not been kicked off yet. So we're going through that process. It's a $23 million project and $17.4 million of federal money. And give just a little overview.
Sure. So the project basically leverages our gas turbine, our generation here locally. It adds a 3 megawatt, 4 hour duration battery, big lithium ion battery. The battery gives us flexibility from a market performance perspective. We can turn it on, discharge it rapidly. It also enables us to start the gas turbine. So the gas turbine as it operates today, if we're disconnected from the grid, has no way to turn on. You need power to make power. So that battery will give us the ability to turn on the gas turbine just like a car battery in a way, just much bigger one. It also will give us some frequency and voltage control to help us ride through grid disruptions. And in the event of a regional outage or a significant distribution outage, we would be able to run the power plant and still serve the underground system without connection to the regional transmission system. So that's the microgrid portion of that, where we can operate independently of the regional grid. Right now, we're fully dependent on the regional grid, so that gives us some of that. There's also some funding in there to replace some infrastructure, some underground infrastructure. There's quite a bit of underground high voltage power lines running throughout the city. They're very expensive to replace. They're difficult to get to. You gotta dig up the street and put in trenches. So we're really fortunate that some of that was qualified under the grant as well to get replaced. And there's also some funding for some electric vehicle charging stations, some fast chargers that will be fed by these underground networks. So in the event of a regional disruption, we'll still have places to charge our vehicles, our electric vehicles in Jamestown. Also, some of the gas stations will be fed by the underground circuits. So we'll have transportation resources during those regional emergencies.
And that'll serve just the downtown core, that's correct, the microgrid?
It's going to be load dependent, so it depends really on what the time of year is. There's a bunch of software and other like soft costs, I guess, that go into this too, but it'll be dynamic. So if say the worst case scenario, an ice storm destroys everything overhead, which would be a really bad day for me, and probably everyone in the city, we can still feed the underground network because it's not impacted by ice. So anything fed completely underground will be fine. If it's a nice day and we just lose transmission capability on like a spring day, we could feed almost our entire system. So it just depends on how much load we have at the time. There could be potential to manage through rolling blackouts of things if the overhead network is still intact and we just lost transmission infrastructure. So it's going to be very dynamic, and it'll be able to solve whatever case happens. It'll be ready to do it.
Primarily a reliability and resiliency project. It's a really important project. It is not a long-term commitment to the natural gas LM6000 turbine. So we have that turbine. We anticipate the turbine will be available for another decade, if not more. But as new technology comes along and the state transitions away from natural gas, if we have different and new generation, right, this project can help support that. So this is kind of starting into that process with what we have today. And it should be a really exciting project. It's probably a 4 to 5 year project. So this is not something that is going to kick off in April and be done in a year or two. This is a large magnitude project. Appreciate you asking the question and bringing it up. I'm a little hesitant to talk about it just because we're in negotiations for the contract with the DOE, because we've really been picked as a selectee. We have not received approval for a grant award yet, so we're working through that process.
Is any scheduling on, I've been asked about getting rid of those telephone poles on Ellis?
Yeah, I feel like our efforts with Windstream, Christopher, his team, others, Windstream is really picking up the pace and I think improving. And so we've communicated and give them updated information. Yeah, if there's a priority area and you give that to us, we can help work through that. But there's a lot of double poles still to do. And they're also interested in manholes. I know that's been an issue as well. So if there's some Windstream manholes, they will try to get to those as well. But I feel like they're a little more supportive and responsive than they have been. So
You already have everything on the sidewalk on Third Street though to run the power, right? That's all done. When you did Third Street.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to our committee reports. Bill, if you want to do housing.
Thank you, Mr. President. We did have some public input. Missy Patanini came in and commented on the pro-community pledge that we're enacting with the resolution that I'll read shortly. But we had some discussion on the demolition list at hand Crystal handed out a list showing the ones that are being ready to go to bid, and those who are being used, or I should say, being paid with HRC money versus ARPA money. That was informative. The vacant properties that we discussed are, some of them are city-owned and some are Jura-owned. So there's some kind, I don't know, I don't wanna say confusion, but some different process on how they might be bid out or auctioned off. So we'll have to see which properties come to light to see that, when they're available to let those, let that bidding go out. The Land Bank also had their 22 annual report, but they'll soon have their 23 report out. Quite informative of what they do, and glad to be partners with us here in the city. So, and then Crystal explained some amounts of money that are for emergency takedowns. It's just not as plentiful as we'd like it to be. It's been exhausted over the last few years on bigger tear downs and demolition work that obviously the two big factory fires that took place. So really all in all, we're trying to get up to date on some housing issues that will allow us to get some demolition work started and get her done. So that was pretty much it. Not a whole lot of public input, but thanks to Missy for bringing it to our attention on that pro-community thing. Crystal, you'd like to add anything that we may have missed?
No, I think you did good. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions. I do have the demolition list that I'll pass out to everybody.
I was just gonna ask.
I do have a resolution to read, Mr. President. It has to do, obviously under housing, but it's, in abbreviated form. It's now therefore, it is hereby resolved that the city of Jamestown, in order to take positive steps to alleviate the housing crisis, adopts the Pro-Housing Communities Pledge, which will have us endeavor to take the following important steps. 1, streamlining permitting for multifamily housing, affordable housing, accessible housing, accessory dwelling units, and supportive housing. 2, adopting policies that affirmatively further fair housing. 3, incorporating regional housing needs into the planning process and decision making. 4, increasing development capacity for residential uses. And 5, enacting policies that encourage a broad range of housing development, including multifamily housing, affordable housing, accessible housing, accessory dwelling units, and supportive housing. This was passed in our committee. And that's all we have for housing.
That's something that we're voting on? Do we have to?
Yes,
Yes.
That would have to go through,
Yep. It's a resolution.
so it'll have to,
go through public safety.
Mhm.
Okay.
but I think you're gonna have to introduce it as new business because I think we need this in ASAP.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Part of this resolution also puts Jamestown to receive, priority consideration for grants as well, so, and funding programs through the state by becoming one of these, pro-housing communities, so it's imperative we get it approved and in as soon as possible.
New business. Thank you.
Mhm.
Very good. Move on, finance. Brent?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have 3 resolutions. The first is paying $336,460.00 for public improvement bonds dated issued March 3rd, 2021. Where $275,000.00 is principal, $61,460.00 is 6 months interest at 1.7% per annum. This is the first 2 payments scheduled for this year. The second will be an interest-only payment. This, we do have a number of things that we paid for, including DPW parks equipment, fire department equipment, small portion of the new fleet maintenance building, and City Hall DPW heating and cooling upgrades. This was passed. Second resolution is to enter into an agreement with Estebone Construction, 3712 Spirit Road, Fredonia, New York, for concrete work street reconstruction, 2024. This is on Price Street between North Main Street and Vanderbilt Avenue. They were the lowest of 4 bidders in the total amount of $114,200.09. This will be funded through Community Block Grant Development Funds. That was approved. And finally, we have the purchase of a new Cat 920 wheel loader from Milton Cat, 400 Wheeler Street, Title I in New York. This is one of the Sourcewell contract. This is the amount not to exceed $194,452.00, replacing a 2015 loader. It's in disrepair, and it's cost of repairs. And this was approved. And finally, we had an ARPA spending update with a new format from our new comptroller, Erica. I'll turn the floor over to you. Thank you.
I think everybody has a copy of the report in front of them. I apologize, it is small, the legal paper kept jamming, so bear with me. At the top is a header, and I've added categories for each of the different projects. So you have a walk across for the project code, what the description is, the number of projects in each of these codes, the average dollar per project approved, the allocation, the funds, revised allocations, to-date spending, and remaining project funds, just at the top. Couple things of note. There is on project 6004, the Parks Building roof. I found the resolution, and it says that there's $150,000 of the spending that should be pulled out of the contingency fund, but all the spending is here right now, so I'm confirming with Joe Bolito what the correction is, so I can move those funds properly. There were a couple of other booking errors which essentially made the expenditures zero. So I'm checking with Joe to make sure when I do the corrections, I do them properly. That was $213,000 of ARPA firefighter expense that wasn't in the report I shared last month with the finance committee, so I fixed that in here. I've had meetings with police, fire, and Matt Spinagle from Parks. I have other meetings scheduled to go over the rest of the department heads' ARPA spending. There's right now $261,000 of funds that I'm saying are given back. A chunk of that is for the deputy comptroller to manage the ARPA funds. I'm still looking at that, but I don't think all the funds that were allocated to that particular project are needed. And the other thing of note is, as of the end of January, in Evans Bank, where we have the unspent ARPA funds sitting, we've earned $312,000 of interest.
Any questions for that's all we have for finance.
Very good. And on public safety, Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. President. We had 3 resolutions under public safety. There was no one from the public that came to comment. The first resolution was for a grant that Chautauqua County applied for the state funding under New York State Criminal Justice Discovery Reform Grant, which they were approved, but a portion of that is to come to the city of Jamestown, which is a total amount of $20,000. For the chief of police, what this grant is going to go towards is to assist in buying equipment to assist with discovery compensation when they're working on cases. It'll go towards things like an evidence freezer, a DSLR camera, laptop, evidence sealer, and a workstation HEPA filter to be used for evidence detectives. So mainly for the evidence or the detective bureau when they're preparing for cases. That was approved. The second resolution was for Jamestown Police Officer Courtney Shawman, and then Jamestown firefighters Corey Ellis, Jesus Garcia, Luke Ames are authorized to attend the New York State Office of Fire Prevention and Control. That'll be in Montour Falls from March 20th to April 14th. Evidently, there's, per the Chief Kuhn, there's 4 active investigators, but there are some openings, possible retirements, so they're looking at getting more investigators in there to boost their numbers. I don't know if Chief wants to add anything to that, or is that?
Just a little update, guys. This is the regular fire investigation course, so all 4 of these individuals that were requesting to go to training will be new investigators. As time goes along, OFBC does modify their course content a bit from time to time. Previous to this year, the fire investigation series was a 2-year endeavor. They would do Fire Investigator 1, which would be the first week of this particular series. Then they would have a year's time to do their 40 hours of clinical or field work. Then they would be eligible to sit for the Fire Investigator 2 course, and then they would have another year beyond that to get their 80 hours in of field investigative work. So this is going to shrink that timeline down. They're going to do the training all at once. There will still be some field investigation work to do, but it's my goal that it'll shorten their timeline for training out by a year. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. That resolution passed. And the third resolution was for amendment, local law 1 of 2024. It was a local law amending chapter Charlie 41 of the city general legislation to establish an assessment grievance day as the first Monday in June pursuant to New York State real property tax law. So thus amending the city charter, is that correct? You said? Because I guess we didn't actually have a specific date
No,
listed.
we did. This is the one I mentioned, that with the new assessors having other towns and villages, that they can do their grievance day on that day that was in the charter. Now they're gonna just be in Jamestown this one day. So
Okay.
it's accommodating us, actually.
Okay. And that resolution obviously also passed as well. And that was about it. That's
So
all
we
we
need
have.
to vote on that. Suspend the rules. We actually do that.
I would recommend it because it's coming quick.
Do you want
We'll
to
need
do a
a-
letter of necessity?
Yep.
A letter of
Yep.
necessity for
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So instead of tabling that, which we normally would do for local law, if the mayor gives a letter of necessity, then we can act upon it next week. That way we get it going. Anything else for safety? We're good? Move on to public works, Randy?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. We had 2 resolutions that were mentioned in finance with the flat work on Price Street and the new loader that they sent some pictures to us, but it's pretty much time for that loader, so. And that would be, like Brent said, coming out of the CHIPS funding for the loader for $194,000. They were both approved. The, another point, there was a resident that Regina had spoke with about Hoyt Alley. If anybody's ever been down it or anything, it's a really kind of steep, very narrow alley. And a woman there said some people are parking there and blocking, at least her driveway, if not others. And you're gonna have the Public Works take a look at that. Mark's gonna check it out to see if it's possible to put up no parking or blocking signs there. And that alley is really tough to deal with, even when there's no cars there. So some people are parking there to avoid alternate parking.
Which one's that?
It's on, it's between 7th and 8th,
Okay.
near Lafayette. Yeah, so we're gonna check into that, and I think we did discuss with Mark possible some kind of warning crosswalk still at Washington Street at 11. So that's still in the works as far as seeing what could be done there. Other than that, that's about it, but I do want to say a side note to Dave is the manholes, you know, kind of been on that a little bit. It would be really nice for the outside utilities to get more responsive this year, hopefully. And we're not talking a lot of them. I mean, these are Newland at Barrett is really bad. Main and 8th, there's 2 of them there, and all that traffic coming in and out of Jamestown, just kaboom, boom, it's a great 8. So if you could maybe see if they do something this year, that'd be really nice.
Yeah, be happy to follow up with you.
Yeah, if you would, yeah. So, and I'll work with Mark. There's just a couple up on 5th Street, and I talked to Mark about that. So we're deciding if that is utilities also. They're smaller manholes. The other ones I mentioned are the bigger ones.
Right.
Yeah, so if you would, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's it.
Have the police been called about the vehicles parking on Hoyt?
She said that she had called the police.
Yeah. Tom wants to guarantee they don't park there anymore.
Yeah, and I told her to call the nuisance department because she said she wasn't getting any response, so.
$200 tow bill, I bet you they don't do it again.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right, that ends our committee reports. Anything else before I move on to the mayor? Sure, here on the floor.
All right, so first thing I want to talk about is the ACP grant. I communicated with all of you briefly that the federal government basically pulled the rug out from underneath us with the grant for Stephen Nealon's as the Communications and the Affordable Connectivity Program. And we had to end all spending on the 6th of this month. So even though he was contractual till, and we had funding approved till 2025, because the government decided on this, his services will end on March 1st. So I just wanted to update everybody on that if they hear otherwise. Next thing, I've met with Dave multiple times and had discussions with him, but we are meeting as a city, as a department heads and group about the upcoming solar eclipse day. So more information coming on that. One thing that those of you that are on council, if you are not aware, if you're in the retirement system, you are required to record your time. So for those of you that have joined the retirement system, if you did not get an email with that information that is required, reach out to Jen or myself or Erica, and we will forward that to you. If you are part of that, you do have to record your time, and we're asking that you record your time for February, March, and April. And then the last thing for open session is some information sharing packets we're going to hand out to you. And I didn't bring any for the media yet because it's coming on the March agenda. But it's a heads up of what Crystal and her department have been working on 3 ordinances coming forward. One is a rental inspection. Some of you may or may not be aware that the state is going to push down a rental inspection. The city's trying to jump ahead on that, and Crystal and her team have done some great work trying to put together some beginning information for you guys to review. Next one is for a public nuisance ordinance, something we've been talking about for a while. And the third one is the vacant real property ordinance. So these are some concerns that have been brought to our attention over the years, some things we're gonna try and address. So she's handing you out the copies of those that, we're just kinda giving you a little bit of a heads up. They'll be on the March agenda to discuss, in detail. But this is just kinda giving you a little bit of a heads up
It's your homework.
at your homework, I guess, cause there's a lot in there.
There's a lot in there.
They've
We'll
worked.
present on, the first work session.
Yep, that's the plan. There's a lot of information, but at least for you guys to kind of get your hands around what's going on. She has a copy for you too, Jen.
Okay.
That is it for me. As you're aware, there's a lot of things going on, but I do have the need for an executive session, actually two, one for negotiation and one for potential litigation. That is it for me. You guys will love your homework.
Quiz on March.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And there's a lot.
Just a quick question, while she's passing that out, how does the nuisance?
Ordinance?
Yeah, is that different from what we just passed?
Yeah, it's,
It's an addition to, or? is it-
yeah, it's more about housing.
Okay. It just sounds like. it.
Beefs it up a little bit.
Yes.
And there was some subjectivity in the old ordinance that kind of gets rid of some of that. Oh, yeah. Did you want some?
And Jen, I think we printed enough for Jen for a copy. And that was
Oh, look at that. It's even the fancy type.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor to go into executive session for. No action to be taken,
No action to be taken.
Contract
Up-
negotiations.
Update only.
potential litigation.
Yep.
And we need just
DPU number.
DPU, and that's it?
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody else can go.
Okay. You guys are good, good night.
Sent the picture to Anthony. Anthony Merchandise, I don't know why he didn't just grab it from that website.
Thank you for doing that. But I'm like, ah.
Yeah, no, I saw that too.
I'll talk tomorrow about your email, about sending that out. Okay. I wasn't at all surprised.
What's that?
Funding part,
Which part? For which?
meaning the pro allows us to get some more funds.
Oh, that's okay. Here, I gotta stop this.
It's so hard.
Did you stop it already?